Hi, everyone. Welcome to Naturally Immune for Life. Thank you for joining me today, and thank you so much for your time. I truly appreciate it. Today, we're going to make a direct comparison, and we are going to be looking at the gut microbes of healthy seniors, which is in contrast to the last post, which was unhealthy gut microbiomes of the most at risk infants. And as you're going to see, um, they are they have one common component. So I'd like to start off by saying that I finally tracked down a more precise number of worldwide formula feeding statistics, and that is at 59% worldwide. So, in this comparison between infants and seniors, there's nothing scientific about it. I'm just taking round numbers from population numbers. And as I said, I found out a more precise number of formula fed infants worldwide, and that's 59%. And that came from the WHO. And I'd also like to say that I discovered that powdered infant formula was actually developed in um, 1867. By 1870, it was sold across 5 continents, and it consisted of, let me see, wheat flour, cow's milk, and sugar. And it was never specifically meant to be for convenience sake. It was developed to help combat those who did not have access to a wet nurse or were in places where there was higher infant mortality rates. So, okay. By 1870s, it was sold across 5 continents. This was the first formula maker. That's Nestle. So, in 1970, there were 3.7 billion people. By 2026, there were 8.3 billion people. If we take the World Health Organization number of the number that are formula fed from 4.6 billion people, which was the actual population growth between 1970 and 2026. We know that formula feeding reached a high in the US at least in 2005, and that's according to infant formula statistics. So if we are generous, that's 2.7 billion people who are at risk of dysbiosis and T cell mediated diseases. If we take the number of infants with a virtually no Bifido population in their gut, and that from the industrialized and Western cohorts, specifically the US, that is 76% that were in the two highest risk cohorts. That's 2.7 billion people. Or no, 59% is 2.7 billion. If we take 76% of that, that is 2.5 billion. And even if we be extremely generous and eliminate and only include the highest risk population, that would be 25% of those specific infants with virtually no detectable Bifido. 25% of 2.7 billion is 675 million people. And I'm extrapolating that across the entire world population just due to the fact that by 1867, Nestle was, or by 1870, formula was being sold across 5 continents. Now, what was I going to say? I forget what year they had some direct competition, and previously I did not realize that it started that early because I could only find when it was heavily marketed in countries like Japan, and that was around the 1910s. So those are just estimate numbers, just going by population alone, and known percentages from infant formula statistics, which are actually most reliable you're going to find, because these people certainly know their consumer. Their consumer numbers are easily traceable and easily tracked. And this is the only food they will be actually consuming for probably the first 3 months of their life, whether it's breast milk or formula. So the variables virtually disappear just because we're talking about infants. So that's why that makes tracking this particular common denominator of Bifido colonization makes things relatively easy, especially when you're comparing it to health outcomes, because it's only one. It's narrowed down pretty much to one, 2, or 3 common denominators: breast milk, delivery method, and formula. So environmental factors really don't even play into that, because in some parts of the world, most children still aren't born in the hospital. So, okay, got microbes of healthy seniors, and you're not going to be surprised that what they're finding is that they have a higher population, microbial Bifido population in their guts. So for decades, scientists have searched for the biological factors that help some people live well into their 90s and even past 100 years of age. Innovative researchers are looking beyond genetics and focusing on the gut microbiome, the massive ecosystem of microbes living inside the human digestive tract. Among the many bacterial groups being studied, Bifido species continue to emerge as some of the most important organisms associated with health, resilience, and potentially longevity. A recent scientific review examining Bifido and aging, analyzed studies from Japan, China, and other regions to better understand how these bacteria change throughout the human lifespan and why they may be linked to healthy aging. The findings suggest that maintaining beneficial Bifidobacterium populations may play a critical role in preserving immune function, digestion, metabolic balance, and overall health during aging. I forgot what year this was. I really should try to include that. Let me just quickly check here what year this was. Sorry. This was 2024. Okay, so that's pretty new. Um, okay. A recent scientific review examining Bifidobacterium and aging analyzed studies from Japan, China, and other regions to better understand how these bacteria change throughout the human lifespan and why they may be linked to healthy aging. The findings suggest that maintaining beneficial Bifido populations may play a critical role in preserving immune function, digestion, metabolic balance, and overall health during aging. One of the largest studies discussed in the review came from Japan in 2017. Let me just state these are those populations you've probably heard about, where the greatest number of people live to be over 100. At least one of them is in the United States. So, yeah, you've probably heard of this before. So, researchers examined 441 healthy individuals, ranging from newborns to centenarians, in order to track how Bifidobacterium species shift over time. The study found that Bifido longum remained the dominant species throughout life, with detection rates of nearly 88% across all age groups. This suggests that B. longum may be one of the core microbial species supporting human gut health from infancy through extreme old age. Now, what can we take about this, since they were studying both infants? They were studying newborns to centenarians, and we already know that in newborns, Bifido was practically non-existent. So, of course, it probably didn't colonize post-birth. You can't give what you don't have, so this specific Bifido colonization only happens in the presence of certain substrates. Other species, which we'll get to later, other species also appeared to play age-specific roles. Bifido brevis was especially common in infants and young children, where it was detected in more than 70% of breastfed children under 3 years old. Researchers believe B. brevis is particularly important during early immune and neurological development because it helps metabolize human milk oligosaccharides, which are specialized sugars found in breast milk that nourish beneficial bacteria. B. brevis is also one of those ones that shifts the infant's immune state from what it was in the womb, so that the infant wasn't rejected. So, So that's one of the ones that helps shift the infant to homeostasis. As people aged, different microbial patterns began to emerge. Species such as Bifidobacterium became more common in older adults and centenarians, suggesting that certain strains may help the aging gut adapt to changing dietary patterns, metabolism, and immune function. The researchers also observed strong relationships among several Bifido species, indicating that these microbes work cooperatively within the gut ecosystem rather than functioning independently. Another fascinating study came from Bama County in Guangxi Province, China, a region known for its unusually high number of centenarians. Researchers compared the gut microbiomes of people aged 100 to 108 years with younger elderly individuals between 80 and 99 years old. The centenarians showed greater diversity of Bifido species than the younger elderly groups, in particular B. dentium and B. longum, remained dominant, while several additional species appeared almost exclusively in centenarians. So I also want to say that I'm going to go on to a particular country here shortly in a future post where they are specifically tying this dysbiosis to gut bacteria, healthy gut bacteria, and where they transferred colitis directly from an unhealthy microbiome to a healthy microbiome. And then colitis, of course, is a form of dysbiosis. And then these are being recharacterized as T-cell mediated diseases. And you'll see that they begin with, as in the last paper, allergies, eczema, asthma, atopic, and then later on they will go on to autoimmune, arthritis, metabolic, obesity, psychological, and infectious. So I hope I got those 5 pillars there. And then they went even further and they included cancer and heart disease. So scientists believe diet may partly explain these differences. Traditional diets rich in fiber, fermented foods, and complex carbohydrates may help nourish Bifido populations throughout life. Researchers noted that some centenarian-associated species possess extensive carbohydrate metabolism genes, allowing them to break down difficult plant fibers and generate beneficial metabolites that support gut health and immune regulation. The review also, and I'm going to show you why that's partly not true, because these are generally not soil microbes. The review also highlighted a broader pattern seen across the lifespan. Bifido levels naturally decline with age. In infancy, Bifido levels can reach approximately 11 log CFU grams in fecal samples, but these levels steadily decrease through adulthood and old age. By advanced age, levels may decline as much as 99% compared to infancy. Researchers believe this loss may contribute to increased inflammation, weakened immunity, digestive problems, and greater vulnerability to chronic disease during aging. Importantly, the review emphasized that not all probiotics function equally. While many commercial probiotics products Probiotic products focus heavily on Lactobacillus species. Several studies suggest that Bifido species may play a more dominant role in maintaining a healthy gut ecosystem. A 2020 Gut Microbiome Health Index study identified multiple Bifidobacterium species among the microbes most strongly associated with healthy individuals. Researchers also discussed studies involving probiotic supplementation. In one infant study involving 234 infants, supplementation with Bifido and Lactobacillus species led to increased Bifido dominance while reducing potentially pathogenic microbes such as Klebsiella, Escherichia, and Enterobacter. Another study in elderly adults found that supplementation with Bifido fermented soy products significantly increased fecal Bifido levels while decreasing less favorable bacterial groups. The review concludes that future probiotic development will likely focus on creating highly specialized Bifido strains with strong intestinal colonization ability. Scientists are now investigating next-generation probiotics, live biotherapeutic products, postbiotics, and other microbiome-based therapies aimed at restoring healthier gut ecosystems throughout life. Although researchers caution that longevity is influenced by many factors, including genetics, diet, environment, exercise, and healthcare access, the evidence increasingly suggests that Bifido may represent one of the foundational microbial groups supporting healthy aging. The gut microbiomes of centenarians may offer an important glimpse into what a resilient human microbiome looks like across an entire lifetime. So the reason I went with 1970, and the reason that most people do, is because the previous generations, especially in the West, were most likely had the access to the greatest benefits in history. They were most likely breastfed. They had access to enough food, and they had access to clean water. So, and as I said in a post coming up here shortly, we're going to be concentrating specifically on Italy and their rising population and growing health costs of dysbiosis. So, more about Bifido. Bifido is a genus anaerobic rod-shaped bacteria, primarily adapted to the digestive tracts of humans and animals. Because they require highly specific environments to survive, their naturally occurring environment refers almost exclusively to biological oxygen-depleted habitats. So they are anaerobic. The primary natural environments of Bifido include the human gastrointestinal tract. This is their largest and most robust natural habitat, where they thrive in the colon. They are among the first microbes to colonize the infant gut and are highly abundant in breastfed babies. In adults, they make up a smaller but critical portion of the resident microbiome. Breast milk in the birth canal, they are usually vertically transmitted from mother to infant during vaginal birth and are naturally present in human breast milk, helping establish the infant's microbiome. The oral cavity and vagina, while they are minor inhabitants compared to other microbial groups, they also naturally exist in the mouth and vaginal tract. Animal hosts, different strains of Bifido are cosmopolitan, existing naturally in the guts of various mammals, birds, and even the hind guts of specific insects, where they help make important B vitamins. Indirect environmental traces, because of their presence in the digestive tract, they can naturally occur in environments indirectly connected to host, such as sewage, anaerobic digestion facilities, and manure. They do not naturally multiply or thrive in the open air or soil. So they are also pretty susceptible to antibiotics. So if you are looking to cultivate or ingest these bacteria naturally, they are common in fermented foods, specifically yogurt, kefir, and traditionally fermented vegetables, but will only survive and multiply once they reach the anaerobic, nutrient-rich environment of your large intestine. So it's difficult. It's a little difficult to recolonize Bifido. That's why I've always recommended you add it straight from the start, and you keep adding Bifido as much and as long as you possibly can if you are not breastfed. So that brings me to other news in that I have been researching these HMOs extensively because I was quite surprised to actually see this development. And lo and behold, Nestle was one of the first infant formulas to add them to their infant formula. And let me see what year that happened. I believe that happened in 2017. Which was only 1 year after they were banned from making any claims about infant formula being beneficial, aside from preventing starvation. So they were the first. And then secondly, their second greatest competitor is probably, I believe it's made by Abbott, and that is Similac. Abbott Labs are also a very old company. Probably Nestle is older, but Abbott was established pretty early as well. Let me see if I do have a date here. But anyway, since I've been studying these human milk sugars and specifically how they work, which I will get into in a further post, there is a difference between bovine oligosaccharides and human oligosaccharides. And that is what, in the end, convinced me, that and other things convinced me that you might find this a very helpful addition to your routine. So I am now an affiliate with Layer Origins, and I just want to be honest about that. Trust me, I wouldn't be buying it and trying it, and I wouldn't be promoting it if I didn't believe in it, because Body Boost, I have been with them for at least 10 years, and they still remain my favorite high quality bovine colostrum product. And I generally don't promote anything on my favorite products page that I haven't specifically tried. So, or at least the brand. I like the brand because I feel the brand is a good brand. So I just want to wrap this up. And another thing is that I'm considering moving these videos to Wednesdays, mostly because I am tired of working all weekend on them. For example, today is Sunday. And even though I try to get started very early, I'm usually not finished until at least 5 o'clock or later. And I'm just a little tired of working weekends, which I have been doing now for many years. And I would like to possibly move these videos to Wednesdays instead. But I would truly appreciate you subscribing to my channel, and I'm going to have some more news coming up here, hopefully by the end of the summer, and I'll keep you posted. But in the meantime, specifically if you're elderly, since these are proving to help the elderly populations, if you would like to get a head start and a major jump in the health benefits of Bifido, I would recommend HMOs. But if not, you can just rely on good old bovine colostrum, which also increases Bifido populations at least 52-fold. But the key here is that when it gets down to these smaller molecules, human to human is going to be a factor in that. So, okay, everyone, I thank you so much, and I'll see you next time. Bye.